Hey guys, and welcome to another Live at 9:45 here with me, Adam Van Ord of Van Ord's Customs. And so, just in case you're tuning in for the first time, this is a live interview show where I ask questions to some of the more influential people, or at least people I find interesting in the scale community, from Dairy Queen here at the shore. Awesome. So, anyway. It's a live feed. You guys will talk, have comments, and things like that going on in the sidebar. But basically, it's a question answer show between me and the RC Addict himself, Mr. Ryan Cornmesser. And so, a lot of you are going to say, "Well, you did Ryan first, and he's been on before," and you know that is the case. And but I was gonna take this week off, and I thought, I really want to stick with my I'm doing it every week thing, and I didn't have a guest lined up, and I went, I know who I need to interview, and I said I'm gonna re-interview Ryan because the video from our first one actually ended up being hosted by Ryan. It was a host of problems. It was just this entire technical mess that we had going on, and he deserves the opportunity to have what everybody else would have, and that is the same interview experience as anyone else. And I also heard we might be getting a special guest, at least for part of our interview this evening, which is pretty sweet. So, before I get started and fired up, I would like to urge you to do a couple of different things. Comment, have conversation, keep it PG, please. Hit the like button, do all of those things, support what's going on here. Additionally, if you feel the need, hit that share button and share this around the internet. It gets more viewers in here, and it's usually a more of a fun time for you guys because there's more people to comment with and talk to. Last but not least, check out all my social media stuff. Van Ord Customs on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm working on building up my YouTube stuff. A lot of these videos are shifting over there, and you can watch all the previous interviews over there on my YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button over on YouTube and build that channel-based subscription up. That would be great, guys. I'd totally appreciate it. So, without further ado, I'm going to get Ryan brought up and start working on some of these questions. Alright, he is coming into the video. So,
I have accepted.
awesome. So,
Okay. Oh, you can't see him. Special guest.
oh yeah. So, who do we have
Adam
as our...
Bavuso.
There we go. Who do we have as our special guest, guys?
This is Adam Bavuso from Spare Time Hobbies, all the way from Colorado. Our chairs are too big. Maybe we move back.
I'll sit on your lap.
So, that's
Bavuso
awesome.
and I have been friends for, 40 years? Well, no, 35, I guess, since kindergarten.
35, yes.
Yeah. So let's start with this whole the same question I ask everybody is tell us a little bit about yourself. So you guys can pick who goes first, however that works. The GCM guys kind of just bounced around or whatever, and go from there.
Do we have enough light?
It looks like there's plenty of light.
The answer is 42. Oh, wait, you didn't ask the question yet.
So yeah, no, pick.
All right, so a little bit about ourselves. Let's see. Ryan and I grew up about 10 miles apart. We've been friends since
Kindergarten, what would that have been?
kindergarten, so I'm almost 40. So
85?
yeah, about 1985. It's been a while. We both got started into the hobby at a young age. I worked a paper route for a long time and got my first RC10T.
I'm not sure who was into it first. I think I got the first one from my uncle, and then you bought one like minutes after.
Yes.
We never really did anything.
So Ryan went the Tamiya route. I went the Team Associated route, and he stepped on my truck and broke it and started replacing parts. And we've been hooked ever since. It was great.
I did too. Like first run, and I'm like, oh no, and I jump and land right on it and smash his truck 5 minutes into running it after taking like 3 days to build it because it was a kit back then. That was terrible. What a horrible friend. You're still here though.
Can't be that bad.
So you guys kind of got in at the same time. Who or what inspired you to do that? So I think you kind of were your own inspirations a little bit, but somebody had outside influence there, at least a little bit.
So my uncle had a Tamiya grasshopper that he had picked up at a hobby shop or a pawn shop somewhere in South or North Carolina, something like that. I don't know. Brought it back here to Franklin, Pennsylvania. Got bored with it. I was like 8-year-old kid, super intrigued by it, and was like, oh, let me, every 8-year-old kid, let me drive it. So finally he was like, I'm going home. You can have it. And I was like, yes, Adam, look what I got. And he was like, what is it? Where can I get one?
Fair.
I did not have a paper route. I was a country kid, so I had to mow grass or just get whatever somebody gave me.
Fair enough.
Now, for me personally, what got me into the hobby, my grandfather and my uncle built a full-size Piper Cub in their backyard and started flying it. And then coincidentally, after they built their full-size airplane, they went and built a balsa wood model Piper Cub and started flying it around at his house. And ever since then, watching my grandfather and my uncle fly their Piper Cubs around the yard, I went the same route, only I decided to go with cars because I tried to fly a glider once when I was younger, and it crashed and burned, and decided it'd be best to stick with the ground.
Fair enough. Man, that makes perfect sense. I've never dabbled in the whole flight thing other than a couple little drones or helicopters, nothing major. So, if you guys weren't in RC, if you weren't in RC as a hobby, what would your hobby of choice be?
Guns. Oh, wait, that is our other hobby. Real cars.
Okay.
My other hobby of choice, I do a lot of woodworking because I used to build houses years ago. So that's my, when I'm bored, not bored, but when I get tired of wrenching on tiny trucks, I'll tend to go out and build something, maybe a coffee table or shelving or improve the house or something like that.
Yeah.
Not my idea of fun. What's dirty? Yeah.
Yeah. So big tire crawlers or small tire crawlers? What is the preference there, guys?
He likes tiny tires. I don't know what the compensation's for, but I like big tires. I started
When
with
you
the
have a
comp.
big beard, you don't need big tires.
I started with the comp crawlers and was really hooked on those for a while. Before Spare Time Hobbies started, I was designing chassis for the comp crawlers, the 1.9s, the Supers, the 2.2, and the Shafties for a little bit there. And then
Anybody who was RCC back in the day when AB Designs was making stuff, he was AB Designs making those comp chassis.
But after a while, when the comp scene died down a little bit and I started getting hooked on the scalers, I decided to switch routes, and then I found 3D printers and decided that I should be able to make some fun stuff for myself, and other people wanted it, so I figured I'd just make it available for everybody.
Yeah. All right. Brushed or brushless power for the rigs?
That depends what you're doing. The brushless is super fun, especially with all the new technology out there. Holmes has got the 4-pole stuff censored that's really good. I've heard great things about the new 6-pole stuff that's out from Three Brothers, although I haven't actually tried it yet. But you still can't just beat the smooth of like a Team Brood or a Holmes motor for the brush stuff. Like, you got all the power of the brushless, but the brushed is way smoother. So it just really depends what you're doing. Like, my class 3 has always been brushless just because sometimes I want to jump over gates. Yep. My class 1 will probably always be brushed because I need control or I jump over gates.
Fair.
I've always preferred the brushed motors, but I just recently tried out one of the new Holmes stubby brushless censored motors with their ESC, the waterproof.
The BLE.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
It gives me lots of power in my TRX4, and super smooth on the low end. Gives me lots of speed on the top end in case I need to just dive bomb over an obstacle.
I feel like with brushless works really well if you can gear it way down.
Right.
So the TRX4 is definitely great for a brushless motor because all the portal gearing is dropping your bottom gear ratio way down. So that makes it a good candidate for brushless. Like, some of the old school SCX10, you get a lot of slop in them, and the differentials are so big. The brushless basically ends up having almost no drag brake a lot of times when you go. So it changes your driving style, which happens to be a really heavy trigger finger for me. So it's like, well, so you got to learn to compensate a little bit because you may not have the control when it comes to downhill.
Yeah. So my next question is, what do you like more? Do you like the building aspect, or do you like competing more?
Go ahead.
I like building more. I like to take the time to sit down and build the kit as it's done by the manufacturer, and then go through it and make my own parts and make it my own.
All right.
Personally, I have no time to do either. At most events nowadays, I'm hanging out, talking to everybody, BSing, and giving what little tips and knowledge I have out freely to the public. So I like doing both. I don't have time to do either.
Yeah. I've been to events with you, and I totally understand that statement right there. Without a doubt. We've done.
I could, if I could go back to people not knowing who I was, then I'd get to play more. But then I probably wouldn't be as much fun either. I enjoy talking to everybody.
Yeah. So I remember so for people who don't know, when I first started, I went to, I think my second comp ever was one of Ryan's comps, and it was one of the first ones he put on in our area for the scale stuff. And so since then, we've done, oh my gosh, probably pretty much monthly comps for the last 7-8 years now. So we've spent a lot of time running together. So that's...
I used to be able to beat you pretty consistently. Now I don't think I've beat you in a while.
Yeah.
Like my trucks, we kind of flip-flop. See, when you very first started running, your trucks were all broken, cobbled together garbage. Now you have trucks at work, and I have all the broken, cobbled together garbage that I don't have time to work on.
Yeah, well, mine are slowly working back toward broken, cobbled together garbage because I just haven't taken the time to perform the maintenance or the upkeep or buy new parts. So hopefully everything holds together this summer, and I'll be all right.
I still haven't fixed my Class 2 from the Winter Series. It still has crunchy gears, and I threw together a makeshift ready to run ascender to run in Class 2. Try to do the Tom Asher thing and just run a stock RTR, and the drive shaft keeps coming unscrewed.
Nice.
So I sell Loctite. You'd think I'd put some on the screw.
Yeah. So then my next conversation here goes toward, like, where did the names come from? So we kind of have something unique going on right now because it's two different interviews in one at the moment, but the RC Addict name and then the Spare Time Hobbies name, like, where did they come from?
Well, the Spare Time Hobby name just came from, I always wished I had more time to do things, and I do it all in my spare time. And between Ryan and I, we were like, well, what's a good name? We'll just call it Spare Time Hobbies.
Maybe you should tell them what you actually do that takes up most of your time.
Well, most of my time I am a full-time soldier in the Army. I've been doing that for the last 14 years, so I got 6 more years I can retire and then hopefully devote my full-time to my spare time hobby.
Will the name change to Full-Time Hobbies after the Army is done?
Maybe. We might have to.
Maybe. The RC Addict thing, honestly, I think RC Addict is a generic term. A lot of people say, oh, you're addicted to it, or like, for me, it basically spawned out of the website is rcaddict.us, and the US is because I always say, well, we're in the United States and all of us are RC Addict.
Yeah.
And so at one point when the company started, I had an addiction, very addictive personality. So rather than do drugs or any of that kind of stuff, I got into RC. Back when I ran Jeeps and Subarus, I always ended up with like 10 or 13 cars. So at the time that the RC Addict started, I think I had 42 radio-controlled vehicles that were drivable on my shelves, plus boxes full of parts. And it was probably my wife who actually was like, you have a problem. And I was like, yeah, probably, but
yeah.
At least I'm home every night, right?
Yeah, no, this hobby gets real addicting, and then you don't realize how deep you're in it until you're like, oh my gosh, I have all of this stuff. So,
till you look at a spreadsheet and you're like, I have $3,000 into one toy truck and I broke it twice today.
Yeah, and both of those brakes cost $100, so.
Right?
So how did the RC Addict thing kind of turn and morph into? So when you started it originally, it was like a forum, right? And then it
Yeah,
kind of
so
morphed its way into like a hobby
uh,
shop, right? And then do you have like a brick and mortar store, or is it all online?
so what happened was originally there was a YouTube show. I started out making like how-to videos. Like way back in the day, I actually showed people how to make their own winches, how to make their own tow straps and things like that. I was showing how to set up rear steer, and I took that and I went from the how-to videos. Originally, the first how-to videos were done under the Keystone RC banner. Keystone RC
Yeah.
is our local club, Keystone being the Pennsylvania shape. We're the Keystone State for anybody who's not in Pennsylvania. Um, so originally those videos were released as Keystone RC, like how-to videos. And then I started doing a show called Life of an RC Addict on YouTube, where basically it was just, I always used to tell people, think Duck Dynasty only with RC cars, you know. And so I started out doing the Life of an RC Addict on there. The hobby shop thing came about because I was going to competitions. All four of my kids were driving and my wife was driving in the competition. So there's six of us with like 9 trucks between all six of us, and I would take buckets of parts with me so that when the kids broke stuff, I had replacement parts, and people knew that, and so they would come up to my truck and be like, hey, do you have a part for this? Yeah, I do. I'll sell you the part. So I'd sell them the part, and then I'd order 2 more so that next comp I had an extra one.
Yeah.
And it just kept growing and growing. Pretty soon people were messaging me and going, hey, I heard you have parts for whatever. Because I had a ton of RC stuff. I wasn't quite as bad as Kirby with my addiction, but I had a lot of different weird stuff that people would be like, hey, do you have a part for, you know, this ancient old what? Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, here you go. And so it had an online forum. You're right. There was some online forums, and I tried dabbling a little bit in having an all RC auction block, like similar to eBay, but it never caught on. And forums
Yeah.
died very, very quickly with Facebook. And so it was like, okay, the forum's going nowhere. I'm going to create a Facebook group. Our Facebook group has what, like 15,000 or 18,000 or something like that people in it now.
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood.
Yeah, so that kind of took off, and the show had taken off, and people were like messaging me through Facebook and stuff. And so I just was like, you know, I got these buckets and buckets of parts. I think I'll just go ahead and set up like a Square store or something. So I just set up a generic free like online store. And in the first 3 months, it did so well that I was like, well, I think I'll expand on that. My other business is a computer business, so I already had the retail licenses and everything. So it's just a matter of making contacts and setting up, you know, all that different stuff. So now we have a retail storefront in our house. We throw on the open sign every day. People stop by our house, buy stuff. They call me. We ship stuff all over the world. You know, so we're online, and we have a technically what you would call a brick and mortar, although it is open by chance because our other business, we travel a lot for other business. So a lot of times I'm out. Like today, I was in town all day running network cable for a customer. So if anybody stopped by and needed something, sorry, I wasn't here.
Yeah.
Like, oh well.
All right, man. What is your favorite part for both of you guys about running like a RC based business?
My favorite part for running an RC-based business is just helping out other individuals who want to make their trucks go and look more realistic, without having to do all the brain crunching and trial and error that I had to get the parts going. So my drive is more towards just helping people have fun with it. I don't want it to be complicated. I want it to be something that almost bolts on without having to go through a lot of modification, because that's when I first started. I would buy something that somebody said this is bolt on, and then you would have to modify it and, you know, maybe take a saw to it and trim it just ever so slightly to make it fit. And my idea was to just trying to help make it more fun and enjoyable for those that don't have a knack for cutting and molding and doing all that fancy styrene work that some people do that I wish I could.
Yeah.
Some of my motivation is based out of customer service. Like I'm all about the customer service, and I'm all about the quality of the part. We originally started out only selling like made in America stuff that was made in little, guys would make it in their basement or their garage. We've since expanded beyond that just because like we sell stuff from Asia Tees now because I actually met the owner of Asia Tees and he was a super cool dude. Jason Sang was over at one of our events and got to talk to him. His customer service and mine line up pretty well. His stuff is pretty high quality. And I was like, you know what? Why are we limiting it? Since we sell all over the world, why are we limiting it to just stuff from one place? I still try to only sell quality stuff. If I get something in and it's not really great quality, I usually will not put it on my store. I'll likely just chuck it off to eBay or something, which eBay is under a different name so that nobody knows that I did that. I like to sell quality and I like the customer service of it. I really hate eBay is a terrible. People shop on eBay, but you don't get a good experience on eBay. You're gonna buy something cheap on eBay, and if it doesn't work, tough luck. You're out. You're just out. You bought something, you spent $20 on it, and it's a piece of garbage, and you're out $20. And now you got to go spend $40 on the quality part, but now you're out 60 instead of the original 40. I'm gonna be straight and honest with people whenever they ask me, "Is this part good?" If it's not good, I'm probably not going to sell it. Like I don't like to sell junk and I don't like to yank people around. I'm very drama free. I'll tell you straight up how it is and sell you a quality part at as low a price as I can.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all about.
All right. So the flip side of that question is you get your favorite part. What's the least favorite part of running a RC-based business?
The government side of it, taxes, paperwork. The worst part of running the RC Addict store for me, besides not having a lot of time to actually build stuff, is the back end side that nobody sees. Like I spent the last 3 days adding new product to our website because it's not like if I just had the brick and mortar store, I would set the bags out on the peg hook and on the glass shelf and that would be it. You walk in, you see it, you buy it. The online store, I gotta either take pictures if there's no existing pictures of it or download pictures, download this description, put those all into our cart, add the weights, add the barcodes, all the product numbers, categories, make sure it shows up and looks pretty. Because you're not going to come to the website and just order something that says, I made this, it's great. Where's a picture of it? What is it? Like, why do I believe you? Well, because I'm me. I'm awesome. Nope. I got to make it look good for people who don't know who I am and don't want to take my word for it.
Yeah.
So for me, the part that I don't like about it, when I started doing designs, there was an SCX-10 and a Vitera, newly out Vitera Ascender. And that was pretty easy to keep up with. And now just the struggle of keeping up with every truck that comes out. People will see a design that I've done and they say, well, do you have it for the HPI? And I say, well, not yet. And they'll say, well, do you have it for the Tamiya or
do you have it for this new body that somebody just made out in the corner shop?
The scale industry, you could say, has just exploded so much. I just can't keep up with it. And if I was doing this full time, I might be able to keep up better, but my spare time doesn't really leave me that much.
Yeah. No, I definitely see what you're saying. There's so many options. Probably over the last 2 years, the amount of choices out there to get a scale rig are just exploding. So, and I don't see that slowing down right now either.
Well, you think about 5 years ago, you had to pay somebody to make you stickers for whatever. Now you can buy a Cricut for $90 and make your own stickers at home. 3D printing is the same way. 5 years ago, 3D printers were $10,000. Now you can buy a kit for $300 and throw it together and download stuff off Thingiverse, and go. So the industry has just changed so fast and so much, it's crazy.
Yep. I hear you there for sure. So my next question is very much geared toward Ryan, and so just in the last little bit here, you've kind of taken over Precision RC Works, which does winches and that stuff, the servo winches. But is there anything new in the works with Precision RC Works?
Sure. So Precision RC, we bought that from Jamie Young, who is a good friend of ours. Jason Swarm, who can't be here tonight. We just did a big live stream yesterday and gave away. I got all these. These are all the people who won stuff during our live stream yesterday. So we did a whole bunch of winches, can koozies, all that kind of fun stuff. Gave them away yesterday. Some of the new stuff that we're doing, we ditched a couple of things. Like there used to be a budget internal spool, and I know a lot of people like those, but honestly, they take way too long to make, and the quality just wasn't there. And as I said, I like to sell quality, so I ditched the internal spool budget winches. Budget winches are now only external spool, which I actually like them better for me personally. If the string comes off the spool and tangles, you just undo one screw, pull the spool off, untangle it, and put it back together. It's way easier to fix. But I know some people don't like them. So we have a ready to run budget. It's $50, has the control board built into it, ready to go. So all you got to do is just plug it in and it's ready to run. No extra controller needed.
Yeah.
We still have the regular budget one. We still have the regular budget winch that requires a Dragon winch controller for that.
Yep.
We call those the budgets. They use a 160-ounce motor. We have the standard winches, which are a 270-ounce motor in those, and those come in an internal spool, external, and a free spool option, although most people don't bother with the free spool now that they know how fast they are.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen one. They're so fast that the free spool option's really not even worth it for the extra money.
I mean, I run them, and I would tell you that if I was going to buy one, not to hurt your free spool business, but I would never buy a free spool one. I can run mine out.
I own two of them, and I've like never used the free spool because I hook them up to 3-cell with a Dragon, and they're so fast and the free spool, you know, not to hurt my own business, but the free spool jams a lot. It's not consistent. You have to do a lot of maintenance to keep them working. So if you run like we do where there's dirt and mud, the free spool has got to be cleaned after every single run. And you've seen my trucks. I don't clean them, so that's not happening. Like, forget it.
Absolutely.
The other new product that we have, we just are working on what we call the Super Sow. It's a 350-ounce servo winch with a coreless motor in it. So if you thought the standard ones could cut your finger off like it did for me, the Super Sow is even more powerful and it's even faster. The gears in it are bigger, so it can take a lot more abuse for the guys that run the heavy rigs. In fact, the gears are so big in it that I've got to buy some new tooling. The tooling that I have right now is not strong enough to actually get through the heavy-duty gears that are in this to make the key part that we need. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah. And we got permission from Reefs RC to use the 555 to make a winch. Those are a custom order item. If anybody wants a winch that will literally bend your truck in half, we can make you a winch out of a Reefs 555 servo. It'll run off of a Dragon, so you can throw 4-cell at it. Those servos are 555 ounces already at like 7 volts or whatever it is that he has on there. You throw 14 at them and they will break. We have a 300-pound test string on them, and they'll break the string and they will literally bend your frame. I don't know why you would need a winch like that, but hey, if you're doing a competition where you want to move the tree instead of your truck, it'll do it. It's crazy.
Mine already moves rocks, so you know.
In Jason and I's live stream yesterday, we Deadpool lifted 2 SCX-10s and a X-Max, so 55 pounds from the floor up to the ceiling deadlift on 4-cell with a standard hog winch, and that's his one that's like 3 or 4 years old. It's old.
Yep. So, Adam, my next thing kind of comes to you. What's going on with spare time hobbies? Have you had any spare time? Are you making moves there? Any new things coming out in that realm?
Well, currently I am working on some more of the parts for the HPI venture. However, I am in the process of moving from Colorado to the Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah.
So my entire life is in the back of a moving truck until my house is complete on August 1st. So probably around August 1st, I should be able to finish up getting those parts for the venture finished. In the future, one of my ultimate dreams for the spare time hobbies is, especially with the way the 3D printing industry is going.
Yeah.
I'm going to be making all of the files available on pinshape.com,
Okay.
where you can go on, you can purchase the STL and print them on your own machine for personal use. I
Yeah.
already do that with a number of the products. I've always been a proponent for do-it-yourself, and if I can get the product from here to Australia with the click of a button, and they can print it on their own machine, I think that's a win for everybody. It doesn't
Yeah.
cost me a bunch of money. It doesn't cost them a bunch of money. And 3D printers are about to that point where if your sole business is being based on 3D printed products, it's a way you should probably start thinking of shifting. Because with my design abilities, I won't buy a 3D printed product from somebody else. He doesn't
Right.
like my vision, but it's the future. I can see the future here. It's it's going to be a point click download print yourself in the
Yeah.
future.
I have several $1,000s worth of 3D printers sitting out in the other room that run 24/7, making his product and shipping them all over the world for people that don't have their own printer.
Yes.
Right.
So the caveat to that is I'm not going to stop printing and selling and producing parts.
Right.
Because not everybody does have a 3D printer or the ability. However, I want the guys in New Zealand who want my inner fenders but don't want to pay $30 in shipping to get it over the pond to be able to buy the file and print it themselves and enjoy the products as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how there's the double-sided piece of that where it's beneficial in both directions. I don't think everybody's buying a 3D printer really soon. I think in the end it'll probably go there, but
it could though. You could buy a 3D printer for less than you could buy a ready-to-run truck.
Yeah.
So,
well, some of the people that contacted me that really started leaning me towards just selling the STL files for personal use, they would email me and say, well, I live in Nova Scotia and my local library has a 3D printer that I can use. Can I just get the files? Because I don't want to pay $30 for shipping. And then if for some reason it happens to break, you say you replace it for free. I don't want you to have to pay another $30 in shipping to send the replacement part. So I was like, that makes sense. And if you have access to it, you don't necessarily have to own it. But if it's going to be a commonplace public thing where, hey, I need a part, I can walk down to the local library and use a 3D printer for a couple hours. I mean, why not? Why not make it available?
That'd be really cool. That's a version of it that I didn't think of, as it being like part of your local community in some way that you'd have access to use it. The schools around me, like specifically the technical schools, not technical schools, the career center and things like that have access to them. But I mean, I could get in and do it there, but most people's access to that wouldn't be really there at this point. So, my next question kind of goes back toward like the building side of things, and it's how many trucks would you say you have built up until this point?
Are we talking just kits, crawlers, go fast?
I will leave that
anything
answer up to you.
You built like 4 quads.
A lot. I got into quad racing, though I never raced. I just like to zip it around. I crash far too much to ever consider quad racing a sport for me. So I have built probably about 4 different quads. I have designed and built 2 other quads. Back when I was doing the comp crawlers, I built various 1.9 comp crawlers from the Losi MRCs, which are my favorite form of the comp crawlers, using the little ones. I built a few of those. I designed a few chassis for those. I don't know. I've built a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 10, 20, 30, 40. I don't know. I got tubs and tubs full of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm well up over 100, maybe even pushing a couple hundred, because I've built, I mean, oh man, I I started in it when I was 8. I think, is that, or were we 12? I don't know.
Should be
I had
about.
my first one when
It
I
was
was
around
8.
10 because I got it my second year of my paper route, and I started that when I was
Yeah, I was gonna
9.
say, I think I had like some Tyco, if you remember the Tyco, like ready to run from Hills Shopping Center or whatever. I had a couple of those early on. I even had a big, it would actually be considered probably a 110 scale. They may have considered it a 1/8 scale back then, but I had a sprint car that was an actual radio controlled sprint car. I actually kept the tires off of it for a long time. They made it on my very first ever scaler that I built because they were really cool, really soft tire.
Yeah.
I built my very first scale truck out of a Tamiya Grasshopper with a Tyco. It had a Tyco truck body that was off of a tracked vehicle. It had like tank tracks on it. I took the hard body off of that, and it wasn't a long enough wheelbase, so I cut it, and I took a pencil box that I had from school that was plastic, cut it, and glued them together. It was before I knew anything about styrene.
Yeah.
So I extended this truck and made it fit the wheelbase of the Tamiya Grasshopper, and then I put it was only 2-wheel drive, but it had 4 big wheels on it, so it looked like a Ford Ranger kind of farm truck with kind of looked lifted or whatever with it. I might have pictures somewhere, but I used those tires off that sprint car because they were real soft and squishy and had good grip. But
Yeah.
I've built a lot. I've sold a lot. There's a couple that I've kept for a long time, like my Class 2. I've had my Class 2 for 7 or 8 years. Probably will never get rid of it. I got that, like my red Class 1 truck, I'll never get rid of it. Usually Class 3s, I build them. They're really cool. They work really well, and then I sell them so I can go visit Adam. But I've done well over 100 that I can think of just off the top of my head. I built a couple of quadcopters when he was into them, and I suck at flying them because my prescription's too thick. I can't look up, and I just got rid of all those.
Yeah.
I got a motorcycle on the shelf. I got a radio-controlled motorcycle out there. I should probably finish building it because that'd be really fun. People might want to see that.
Sweet. So I'm going to pose this question to you, but also to all the people out there because my comments have slowed down. So what is your favorite truck that you've had of all time? So most of you, even those guys out there watching, like if you're watching this, you haven't just built one. I'm sure you've built more than one. What's your favorite one of all time? So
My favorite truck has been my Vetera Ascender that originally started as a Blazer. I shortened it down to be a Bronco and then used the GCM Leaf Spring Kit, designed the full 3D printed interior for it, and that thing, it works phenomenal. I love that truck.
I don't know that I used to say I had that Class 3 that I really, really liked, but the GCM guys and Rob Matthews down at Ultimate Scale Challenge really got me hooked on the super tiny tire stuff. And I gotta say, like that little Jeep with the GCM skeleton chassis and the ridiculously tiny tires and zero flex is so much fun to drive. Like that's probably my new up there truck right now because it's just so stupidly impractical. Like if you're a noob and you build a truck with big tires and lots of suspension, you crawl over anything. This Jeep does not crawl over anything, and yet it does at the same time. It's ridiculous. You own one. There's no flex, no speed, no power, and yet it just goes. Like GCM just engineered that chassis so well. I can't keep this stuff in stock. When I get the GCM stuff, the GCM chassis and the bodies in, they're gone within a week, and then I got to wait a week for shipping. They're just constantly they're just so much fun. So I think that little red Jeep is actually probably my new favorite truck, just because it's ridiculous, but it's fun to drive. Like it's a blast.
Yeah, my blue one goes places. I point it in a direction, and it just keeps going. As long as the tires hit the ground, it never stops. And I don't understand why. Like, I really don't. But it does a good job.
Because it only has like
And
an
then
inch. It only has like an inch of suspension flex. So like, why does it work?
I don't think mine has that. My rear doesn't flex at all.
Like
It's
half
leaf
inch
sprung,
maybe.
and I'm almost certain that I get maybe a quarter of an inch on a side of flex in the rear, if that.
Yeah.
Because of the way I set it
And
up.
yet it just goes.
Yeah, like half upside down. Like it's nothing.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know. What is one that you sold that you should have never let go?
You got one of those?
Well, if we go all the way back to my comp crawler scene, I had my very first crawler was the Venom
Creeper.
the Venom Creeper
Venom Creeper.
that sucked as a truck the way they designed it. So I redesigned it and came up with I called it the 4VP, and it went through about 5 different versions. But eventually that chassis on a shafty was just phenomenal, and it just plain out worked, and I could win comps no problems with it.
With a Venom Creeper. It would tick off all the MOA guys, and everything would get all ticked off because he would beat them with like a $50 truck.
Yeah.
It was great.
But yeah, I sold that a while back thinking I wanted to switch axles over to the SCX 10 axles and then try out the Vanquish parts on the XR10s. I never should have gone away from what worked. The other ones worked. I really liked what I had going.
Yeah, I mean, everybody doesn't always like the same thing. It doesn't always perform for the same people. So the fact that there's, I mean, now especially, there's so many choices, not necessarily in the comp world, but in scaling, that there's a flavor for everybody. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, Ryan, what shouldn't you have let go of?
I kind of still wish I had that original Grasshopper from way back in the day. I have a version 2 that somebody gave me when they heard about my nostalgia for the old one. They actually gave me the version 2, but it has a different body, so it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite hold the same thing. I've had a couple of crawlers that like I really, really liked the way they performed, and I sold them, and then I was like, man, I wish I had that back, but honestly, with the way that technology has changed, I've replaced those with newer stuff, and I really don't miss them that much. It's like, yeah, they were cool and the nostalgic part of it, but new stuff moving forward, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. I thought for sure you were going to talk about your bug. That was a unique one. I liked that. That was cool.
I did in the last interview. That we did way back when you started this. I was thinking back on that and was remembering that bug. I since had another Nightcrawler and started to reconstruct that and went, this is stupid. I remember why I don't like the worm gears. I'm going to a TRX. So yeah. I sold the stuff to Jamie and was like, yeah, whatever. I'm done with all that.
Yeah. So I just want to bring up the fact that I did interview you before, and in fact, so I talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to talk about it again here for a second. And so the reason that you're on again now is because I was going to take a break this week, and I was like, well, I don't really want to take a break. And so then I reached out to you because I've known you forever, and I knew that there was a high likelihood that you'd be willing to be on an interview. But really, when I got to thinking about it, like, some of the guys that I interviewed at the very beginning, oh my gosh, the way that everything's changed till now, like, we didn't even do like the sideways split screen. Yours was so botched that it ran through your feed, and like I interviewed you on your own feed, and so it was all over the map. So if you see some people pop up that were some of the first like 4 or 5 interviews, guys, that's because I'm reaching back out to them, and you'll see them from time to time, and really, like, I think they deserve a fair shake at this, because they were the people that really, like, they were some of the people who originally I wanted to get a hold of, I really wanted to talk to, and I really wanted to put their stuff out there. and I feel like it's not as easily accessible because it doesn't match what's going on, and I know that it's okay that it doesn't match, but really some continuity there would be good, and then I can get them to over to YouTube so that people can watch them and learn about all these other awesome people that I interviewed before.
Well, yeah,
it just wasn't
you've
right.
streamlined your process a lot. You've streamlined your process a lot too, because that original one was just kind of a handwritten piece of paper. Like, let's just see how this goes, and yeah, the technology was terrible at the time. And actually, Adam was here for that very first one. If you can find it anywhere, he was filming, and things just did not work well at all.
Yes.
I think the chair I was sitting on fell apart during that episode, actually. That's how terrible things were.
Yeah, I mean, nothing worked. It was handwritten. I was like, oh, I have the questions all written for Ryan's interview. It won't be a big deal. So 10 minutes before the show started, I pulled up the questions only to find out that they were all handwritten and they don't exist. So I threw all these ones together right before the show because I had to have something. But no, I just want to thank you for being on again, and we'll resume what was going on, but it just kind of came up in conversation. I felt like it was a good time to talk about it in the middle of the interview, that it seems right to go back and touch on those people who were in at the beginning and make it all fit, and then have something that's quality enough that I can feel good about uploading it to YouTube and having it tied in with the rest of the series. So that's where I stand.
I like it.
All right. Now, who are your influences in the scale crawling segment of the hobby? And if there was someone who you'd like to see on the show, who would your pick be and why? Now, nice.
It's his fault. It's his fault.
So
seriously,
I want to pose that to the people who are watching too, because the last time I said that at the last interview I did, I got a lead for the guy that I just landed in the last 2 days, and his name is Rich Trujillo, or I don't know his last name. I haven't seen his last name, but he works for Horizon Hobby, and oh my gosh, his story is amazing. I am so excited to talk to him. So any names you guys throw out there, honestly, I go back through, I read the comments,
he's a cool
I search them down. I look for info, and I'm searching out people because I just want to highlight all these awesome people in our hobby. So anyway,
I may not be able to tune into that one. So make sure you tell him that I said hi, because he hooked us up with some test stuff that we did real honest reviews of early on. That was absolutely amazing. They weren't even released to the public yet, and he was like, "Oh well, here, have this." I met him at Motorama, I think it was, and he was like, "Here, take these back with you and tell me what you think." And I was like, this is amazing. And then we couldn't actually sell the Horizon Hobby stuff for a long time because we didn't have a brick and mortar store. But now we do have a brick and mortar store, so we're now Horizon Hobby. So I'm like, I can finally sell this product.
Yeah.
So
all right. So that was 2 sidebars in a row from me, and I apologize to everybody watching, but a lot going on tonight. Who are your scale influences in the scale crawling community, and if you were going to pick someone, who would it be? I know you pointed to each other, but you don't get to answer
that. I do want to answer that, though, because I know you've heard the story, but maybe not everybody out there has. So Adam and I took a long break from crawlers. We got into real cars and then girls and all that stuff. So there was no radio controlled for quite a few years. And then I was working in Harrisburg. He was stationed in Allentown, which are about an hour apart from each other. And Wednesdays, he and I both got off work early. And so I would go up to his house, hang out with him and his wife, and have dinner with them and hang out. And I was living in a hotel room. So 15 weeks living in a hotel room. I'm bored out of my mind. There's only so much TV you can watch and weights you can lift, and I don't want to do that anyway, so whatever. And I was talking to him on the phone one day, and I was like, I should get a radio-controlled car again, like when we were kids. That would give me something to do. And he's like, oh, actually, up here in Allentown, they got a hobby shop. I've been in it once or twice. You should come check it out. I was like, all right, well, I'll come up Wednesday. We'll go check it out. We had dinner late, and we walked in 5 minutes before they closed. So, we walked in at 7:55. They close at 8. Haven't been in a hobby shop in probably 10 years. Walk in there, and I'm like, they have rock crawlers now? What is this? And they had like they had the low C night crawler and the low C mini crawler. The mini crawler was like $250, ready to run with the battery and everything. And the guy's like, we close in 5 minutes. I was like, I'll take this box right here. Bought it. We opened it in the parking lot in the trunk of his car, and there was like a little rock pile there. We played with it in the parking lot. I think he bought one like 2 days later, and within 3 weeks, I think I had 8 crawlers. Like I just kind of went nuts. I was like, this is my new addiction, and I drove home from Harrisburg from doing that job where I lived in the hotel, and all my clothes were on the passenger seat, and the trunk of the car and the back seat were full of radio controlled. I met Luke that owned Hidden Hanger, and he had a used section. I probably bought like 3 or 4 used trucks from him in those 4 weeks or whatever. And I had 6 MRCs at one point so that every member of my family could have their own mini crawler. And yeah, that's kind of what spawned the crawler addiction, was that.
And like I said, it's his fault. We got them together, and then I picked one up, and then I went with the Venom Creeper and built the kit because I found they came in a kit. I wanted to understand how they worked because that's just the way my brain works. And I
think you started designing parts for the Creeper like night 1. It's middle of the night, it's dark, we have headlamps on and flashlights taped to our trucks, and we're crawling a dirt pile in his side yard, and he breaks a C-hub. And so we bring it back to his dining room table. I have pictures. His wife is like standing there just shaking her head. The dining room table has tons of RC parts all over, and he's manufacturing new C-hubs like with a Dremel. Like, I'll make this work again. And that the Venom Creeper, for anybody who doesn't know, had the very first locking and unlocking diffs like the TRX has now.
It was a poor design, but they had it.
It was terrible. So he was modding that right off the bat. Like, let's make this work better. Like, oh, a terrible chassis. It had a nickel metal hydride mounted on top of a twin vertical plate chassis, so it would just tip over. So of course that was like day 2 that you modded
that went away.
All
right. Then we ended up breaking the C hubs and had to go get some pipe fittings and Dremel them down to make some rear lockouts so it wouldn't break all the time. It was interesting.
So as you guys are out there surfing the web, doing whatever you do to get inspiration in this hobby, what is your favorite scale build that's kicking around out there on the internet right now that is not your own?
I don't think I really have one right now.
You can't pick one. Like, that's terrible. Sean Saley makes amazing builds. Donnie Branham makes amazing builds. All the GCM stuff is awesome. Just go to the Ultimate Scale Truck Expo in Florida, and you'll see nothing but amazing builds. And you'll see some really crappy stuff that still is like, that's cool anyway because they brought it and it's great, whatever. I don't think I could pinpoint just one. There's too much. Like the hobby has gone so far, it's no longer Lexan-bodied SCX 10s and AX 10s, that it's now you got Bauhaus making their own axles with offset stuff, and GCM remachining gears. You know, Beef Tubes is remachining universals to fit different axles, so you can actually put universal shafts in trucks that never had them before. So you can have a super cool looking crawler that also has 70 degrees of steering now. Right. And there's so many people 3D printing new stuff that the hard body 3D printed hard bodies have just exploded this year. You can get any kind of body you want now. If you own your own 3D printer, there's a company called Scale 3D that sells the body files for like $8. You can download the file and spend the next 6 weeks printing your own body. And, you know, if you're good at sanding, make it look good. And by the way, it does take forever to 3D print a body, and it's going to weigh like 2 pounds, but, you know, nobody else has one, so you might as well.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot out there.
I agree. I mean, they're all over the internet. I land on something new every day that I think is the best thing I've seen so far. So it's just amazing over and over again. What is your favorite scale comp of the year and why?
For me, it's a toss-up between K&K and KOG. Two of my favorite comps. K&K I like because it's really laid back and it's Top Truck Challenge style, so it's not straight up Sorka rules. KOG I like because of the atmosphere and the people. You go there, like KOG is a weekend party with tiny trucks.
Yeah.
And it's Sorka rules, but it's still super fun. Everybody that's there is super fun. You get to hang out with all your friends, and the only drama you ever see at KOG is Todd's stupid neighbors, but beyond that, there's never any drama in tiny trucking. So, KOG probably edges out K&K, for that just a little bit because the fun factor seems to be more at KOG. Like everybody's just the mood is different, a little bit there. It's like I'm trying to think if I've ever actually seen a serious competitor because Todd runs it, so he doesn't get to compete. So there's, you got yourself, and maybe Derek that are kind of serious about winning. Most everybody else is like, whatever, we're going to break something. Let's have fun. So it doesn't really seem to matter that much.
Yeah, I see it being kind of laid back at KOG as well, and I like it. The first year I went, I kind of fell in love, and I've gone back every year, so I enjoy it for sure. I can't wait. It's coming up for those of you who don't know.
I've only missed one.
Yeah.
The very first year they did it, I wasn't there, and then after that, I was like, I'm there.
Yeah, I think I started like year 3. This will be my 3rd year going back. And so for people who don't know, it's in Ohio. It's the weekend of like July 20th through the 23rd or something like that.
Yep.
It's not too late to go, I don't think. I can't remember when their tickets closed or if they did yet. But
no, they still had some tickets left for a couple classes. So
yeah, so
OhioScaleGurus.com is the website if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and so I'd encourage anybody who's anywhere near there to check it out and go hit that up because it's a great time.
Even if you're not near there, I'm going to be driving. I will be in Michigan. I will drive home to unload from a job, pack up, and head back over. So I'm going to be driving like 13 hours to make it to that event.
I only have to drive 6. Piece of cake. So, anyway, you talked a little bit about Sorka stuff and all of that. How does someone go about finding the information necessary to learn all of the tips and tricks to do well in a Sorka-based event?
So first of all, try to see if there's a local club near you. Get on Facebook and see. Almost everything's on Facebook now, so see if there's a local Facebook crawling group there and hang out with them. If the group doesn't do Sorka stuff, doesn't matter. You're probably still going to have fun with the local group anyway, trail running, doing whatever. If you specifically want to do Sorka comps, and going to Sorka.com and reading the rules is as much as reading, first century Latin or something to you, and it doesn't make any sense, then you can hit up our forums and ask me. Ask yourself. Anybody can ask us questions. We'll do what we can to help you. The best advice I can give anybody that is interested in competing and they say, what can I do to get better? Put all your weight as low as you can on your chassis and then drive your truck every day. Just every day when you come home from work, drive your truck for an hour, put one battery pack through it, learn how it works. And don't do big changes constantly. Drive it like 6 times the way it is and do tiny little changes and adjustments. Because if you drive it and it tips over and you change the whole thing and you drive it and it tips over again, why was it tipping over? You don't know because you changed everything. So on my trucks, I tend to build a whole truck. And of course I got years of doing it now. So the geometry and weight and everything sort of just comes naturally. I now know how to do a 4-link without even putting a ruler to it. Like, cause I've done it so many times. I don't need a calculator. I can just make it and I know what it looks like. I can do a chassis mounted servo mount and I know how the hard bar is going to work just by looking at it. But I got there from building it and then tweak and then drive it and then tweak it and then drive. This guy, he would tweak his truck, like he would drive it and then I need one screw twist, and then I'm like, that's a little ridiculous, but his stuff worked better than mine, so.
Yeah. So, all right.
Best
so,
way.
For the two of you guys, where do you see the scale crawling community heading in the coming years? And so I always like asking this question because I feel like it's kind of, it gets unique answers. So let's see what you got.
Go ahead.
Where do I see it? I don't know. It depends on how weird the Sorka rules get. If they get too weird, I could imagine seeing some sort of a new offshoot coming out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good point. Like, is he talking straight up competition or just scale trucks? Because I think
scale crawling as a whole.
So scale crawling as a whole, the one truck that came out recently, was it the Cross RC, the SG4 Demon, where I think they kind of set the bar high for what should be expected. Because if you want ultra realism and you're a Joe like me that can't quite figure out how to craft styrene to make it look interesting, it is literally a drivable model that you pull out of the box, you snap together, you glue together, you paint it.
Yeah.
I think if that is the way that it went, there could be a lot more happy people out there because they could have a really nice looking truck without all the know-how that is excluded to a few who are really good with crafty with their hands.
I would totally agree with that. I think you're seeing the bar level getting set higher and higher because 4 years ago, what was it? RC four-wheel drive was the only really scale truck that was out there, and you paid for that. I mean, it was $700-800 for a TF2, but it was cast axles, it was a hard body, it was whatever. And then you had Axial, where it crawled really good, but everything was Lexan, everything was plastic, and I don't want anybody to think I'm dissing on Axial or anything. They're great. I own a ton of them, and I think they've done a lot for the hobby. But I think what you're seeing is that the scale realism is changing because Viterra came out with a smaller axle tube. Their Lexan body was bigger, a little bit more realistic, and had a chrome grille insert. So then what do you see? Axial releases a Jeep that's got a separate grille, door handles, mirrors, and all that. Okay, good. We're stepping it up. We now got high-point axles or gears in our axles. Things are more realistic. Awesome. And then we see Traxxas come out. Like Traxxas's new Bronco, that body is just, it's phenomenal with the chrome bumpers and the grille on there. That is a good-looking truck from a company who's known to make bashers. So if the Basher company is making a truck look that good, and he's right, Cross RC is making a drivable model. Cross RC stuff is not necessarily competition, although you can make it be that way with a little bit of tweaking. Their 4-link and stuff is more realistic, which means you got to tweak it just like you would a real truck to run it in a competition. But everything is the detail is so much better, so much more amazing. And I like the fact that I'm sure it's harder for these companies to do because we manufacture stuff, so we understand that the cost is there, but it seems like they're holding the same cost level but bringing more realism to them. Yeah, which is good.
Yeah. No, that's an astute observation that I would tend to agree with. I will agree that the Bronco body from Traxxas, I mean, so if you're into taking scale photos at all, like that thing photographs out of this world good. Nothing like the Lexan bodies that people were putting on trucks. And it is Lexan.
And it's super easy to take a picture of it. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to be good at photography to get a good picture.
Yeah. And I mean, I had to work hard to get a body to get a good picture like that. And then now you can just buy it. Although it's not cheap if you go to buy just the body. Still cost you a pretty penny, but it definitely looks good.
Yeah, how weird is that?
I think you're one of the people that it's kind of said like, really they're upping the realism and keeping the price similar, comparable, reasonable. It's not getting out of hand completely, although it does some places, some ways. But manufacturers are actually looking at that, and I think that that's a big draw and a positive thing. So I'm interested to see where it goes,
Yeah.
guys. What should we expect to see next from either one of you, from the two of you? However you want to answer that.
I've got a few ideas and plans that is going to help not really take us in a different direction, but perhaps enhance the quality of some of the stuff that we're doing. So you can keep an eye out for it. It's going to be a couple of months before I get there, mainly because I'm still moving.
Yeah.
And got to get my work area set up at the new house. But once we get there, you'll see some stuff coming out.
Yeah.
As far as RC Addict is concerned, for RC Addict, we built the new competition barn last year that increased our amount of space that we had for competitions. We're going to be continuing to run the Winter Point series, which has been a big hit. Also, with the purchase of the new property, like we had the Addicting Adventure, that was really popular. We're going to be doing that again. We're lining up. We're hoping probably September is what it's looking like. We're going to be doing a competition with trailers. You have to drag a trailer around behind your truck. You will get bonus points based on how heavy your truck is, how many axles it has. So you can build a big trailer if you want to, because big trailers are easier to back up through the backing portion, but know that your extra axles and weight are probably going to hurt you in the hill climb.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that competition in September so that everybody has all summer to build, tweak, and practice with their trailers. There will be an auto course with cones. Holmes Hobby has donated a literal ton of little rubber cones. I think there's like 100 or 200 of them. So we're going to have a full autocross course set up where you have to drive through with your trailer, back it into a spot without hitting cones. Every cone will be a penalty. You're going to have to do a hill climb. You're going to have to do a trail run, all that. And I think that's going to be a blast. We've had a ton of people that have been asking about it and signing up for that. Winter series, we've got a bunch of new obstacles that we're working on. So not just a pile of rocks. We're building some new stuff in the barn that's going to be a lot of fun. And we're expanding now that we've got like the Horizon Hobbies and the Axial and stuff with our brick and mortar store. You're going to see a lot more stuff that you can purchase from us. So we've already expanded to carrying ready to run trucks and kits from Axial and Traxxas. You're going to start seeing like the Viterra stuff as well. And pretty much just about anything you want, we can order for you. If it's not on our site, you can send me a message and ask what kind of deal can we get you. And we're going to be trying to go to a lot more. We're going to try to be at like every event if we can throughout the summer. So that's kind of our new goal, is get to more stuff and hang out with more people.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Well, I don't have any other questions for you. Is there anything that I missed that you need to add, that you should add, any of that stuff? It's kind of your moment here before we do the closing and head out for the evening. So,
what is your newest project? Have you made it any further on the Chevy with the independent suspension?
So, I have been suffering very, very strongly from lack of motivation in the RC world. And I don't know if any of you go through that, and people out there watching, if you want to comment. I have like RC block. Every time I go to sit down and work on my RCs, I'm like, man, there's something else I should be doing, or something else I want to do. Or I've been acquiring a massive amount of iPhone photography and videography gear. And so I've been toying with that and learning it. I'm going to KOG and ECSC, and I really want to do some video and stuff at those events, some photography and stuff at those events. I'm not getting paid. I'm not doing it for any reason other than like that's what's inspiring me at the moment. So some event videos, hopefully, and stuff like that. We lost them. I'm not sure how, but I'm going to continue answering their question. So some of that stuff. And then I did just find inspiration in something today, but I'm keeping it under wraps. not been seen in the scale community, and I think there's like maybe 2 people out there at all who know what I'm talking about. But it'd be real different, and it's right up my alley. So that might be my next big build, and we'll go from there. And so, I don't know if I'm locked up, but I know they got headed out. Probably from the million likes and stuff. Yeah, that's probably true. Patrick, that happens, and it's crazy. But I'll bring Ryan back in right now, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's projects in the wings that I should be working on. I'm just no motivation, guys, and
I think it broke.
Because, hey, you're back. So I just rambled on, so it's all good.
Yes,
but, we could hear you.
Yeah,
we just
video. You're getting into video and shooting video because it's fun.
Pictures.
Yeah, I mean that's what's fun for me at the moment, and so I kind of just chase what's fun in the hobby, and I cycle back. I'll build something. I did get inspired today, and I was pretty inspired, so we'll see if that one pulls through or not.
By the way, I was inspired by your backdrops, and I tried to design you a 3D environment, but my computer's not hefty enough, and it keeps crashing halfway through the design. So I haven't forgot about it. I just need more hardware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever get the
backdrop, I was actually at
I was gonna ask, did you ever get the outdoor scene one done?
I have an outdoor one. I didn't put it up because it's not like phenomenal. It's good. It's okay. And if you spend some time doing some editing when you take your picture or you play with lighting, it will do well. Like it'll take a good scale photo. I have like a rooftop one that is the same way. But they're not like the garage one. The garage one just has the absolute look to it, and they're like an 8, and the garage one's a 9.5. So
the garage
one
is amazing.
9.5 on all of them. So we'll see. But I did talk to a garage that's semi-local to me, so hopefully I can get in. They might be getting back to me, and hopefully I can get in and get some photos, and then so the photo will be mine to start with, and then it'll do a couple things. It'll have their stuff. It'll be an actual shop, like a real deal shop that's from my area, and then you'd see like the crawlers and stuff in them. So I'm hoping for that. Fingers crossed. I have a couple other shops I want to talk to, but that's where that's headed. And I think indoor is better than outdoor, because people can take pictures of the trucks outside already, not necessarily inside.
Right on.
So. All right, well, that's where I'm at. And so first off, I'd like to thank you guys for being on. I totally appreciate it. And we'll go from there. Hopefully, maybe again in the future. I mean, I don't know where this whole road is taking me. I just keep asking people for interviews and see what happens. So
cool. We like what you do. Keep it up. You're doing good.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
Thanks. I mean, I'll try. We'll see where it goes. We'll see what happens. The inspiration for people though is definitely key to those people out there watching and shooting up some suggestions, because I'm very quickly going through the people who I was following very closely, and so now seeking out new people is becoming increasingly difficult. It's not that there aren't cool people out there, it's just that they're like on the outskirts of the circle of the people I was watching, and so then I haven't followed them for as long, and I don't know as much about them. So people's suggestions go really far in this, and I appreciate all of that.
Or they don't want to be on camera. You have those people that are afraid of the camera. They're really cool, but they don't want to be on there.
Yeah, and I've messaged some guys, and I totally respect that. I get it. When I started all this, I didn't want to be on camera either. And then I made a decision like in December that this is what I was gonna give a shot at this and see where it took me. And now I'm pretty comfortable doing it, and I don't mind being on camera, and it's okay. But I mean, like I said, I don't know where this road goes, but I'm gonna keep following it and see what happens.
It's a fun ride anyway.
It has been so far. We'll see what happens. But anyway, so thanks guys for being on. I'm going to close you out. I'm going to talk about the upcoming guests and how you can find me on social media and all that jazz and go from there. So thanks for being on.
Peace.
See ya. All right, guys. So that concludes our show tonight with Ryan from RC Addict and Adam Bavuso from Spare Time Hobbies. Longtime friends who've been involved in this for most of their lives, and it's awesome to see them doing all of that. Wait, Adam? Yeah, that's me. But I'm going to go back and go through all the comments here on Facebook, and then if you've watched this on YouTube, I will. I'll see what happens there and goes on. Over on YouTube, if you comment, I'll comment back. Now, when I close this out, I want to talk briefly. Join me over on Facebook under Van Ord Customs. Check me out on Instagram, vanord_customs. Check me out on YouTube, Van Ord Customs. All of these videos get uploaded to YouTube, so if you've missed a guest, if it wasn't like the first 5, all of them are uploaded except for Eric Dye from last week, who I'm working on currently getting uploaded. And if you haven't missed anybody, keep paying attention to what's going on here, and I'm bringing new people in. Up next week is Brad Perry, and then the following week is Rich Trujillo. I'm sorry, Rich. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. I apologize. I know I butchered it, but exciting people coming up, and like always, I'm searching for new people. So if you think you know someone who would be a good person to be on, or you're interested in being on, shoot me a message to Adam Van Ord, or shoot it to Van Ord Customs, and be more than happy to consider you for the show and see what you're doing, because my goal is to support positively all of the people out there in the scale community who are doing good things and promoting the hobby in a good way. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and without all of you watching, without all of you paying attention or any interest, it'd just be me talking to a camera, and no one wants to see that. So have a good week, guys. I'll see you next week. Same time, same place, live at 9:45.